because the house is collateral. That means if you don't pay the loan, what can the bank do? Can take your house. Yeah. So that's collateral. They'll give you, you're much more likely to get the loan if you own the house because you're showing that you have something they can get if you can't pay. Now, if a person doesn't have any collateral, it's much more difficult to get the loan. It's true that you can get it on salary, but then a lot of that gets complicated because maybe if you've been at the same job for 10 or 20 years, and maybe if you have a government job, then it's much surer. They're much sure that your income is somewhat guaranteed. If you've been working for 1 or 2 years at Robinson, not so good. Then you really need the collateral. Then the collateral can take care of a lot of things. Now, lots of people don't have collateral, and we're going to read later on about microloans. This is something that started in Bangladesh, where people would lend people who had no money a little bit of money to start a small business. And then the person would pay back little by little, but it wasn't a bank. It was like a group of people who would get together and do this. And I saw this microloan work. I was in Africa, in Uganda, and people would get small loans to do something like, if I say have a coal business, they would just maybe buy a few kilos of coal and sell it. But that was a way of earning money. Where I was in Africa, they used coal for everything, for cooking. Even they put coal in an iron, how to iron clothes. Okay, so I'm just telling you a little bit about this, so when we read this, you'll have some understanding of what we're reading about. All right, so I'll read and then you will read, please. This chapter looks at business and money, or we could say the business of money. The first reading selection in this chapter discusses organizations that are helping people escape from poverty. It looks at different types of loans and reports what women and men do with such loans. In part 2, the reading selection explores the question, why do we buy things? It explores the relationship between advertising and psychology by looking at consumerism and the human brain. What kind of advertising makes you want to buy something? Part 3 focuses on suffixes and parts of speech to help build vocabulary. In part 4, you will analyze the difference between an implication and an inference, which is an important distinction that will help you with tests. Well, we don't want to read that again. It's not so interesting. So let's go to 48, part 1, banking on poor women. Okay, so Nadi, would you read this, banking on poor women, before you read? Page 48.
Banking on poor women. Before you read, 1. Previewing the topic, look at the photo and discuss the question. 1. Compare the social or economic class of the people in the photo below. There are some words to describe the economic situation. 2. What might people be doing in the photo of the bank? Think of as many work, and you can for activity that usually take place in the bank. 3. What is necessary in order to get a business loan to borrow money from a bank?
Good. Good morning, Prop. Do you have a book? You have a book, don't you?
No, I haven't.
You don't have a book. Gal, would you get, it's in the bottom of the cabinet. Thank you very much. Okay, these pictures are not very easy to see because of the copies, but if you just look at the one on the left, selling produce in a market in Ecuador, first picture. Top right, women weaving in the Philippines, and bottom right, banking in the United Arab Emirates. Now, just tell me a little bit about the person selling produce in a market in Ecuador. What would you say would be something of the economic level of people who are selling this way? What? I'm sorry. What is your impression of the economic? Remember economic, all you have to think of is money. What do you think of the economic level of the people who are selling produce?
Banking in the United Arab.
Sorry? No, the one here. See where it says underneath, selling produce in a market in Ecuador, 48 profit. Pardon? Yes, but they're selling out in the market. They're bringing this, she or he, you can't tell. They're bringing the produce, which we know fruits and vegetables, to an open market. Do we have any idea how this person will do money-wise? We don't know. We don't know. Maybe on a good day, you sell. On a bad day, you don't. So it's an unpredictable income. But if a person doesn't have an education or a skill, that's usually all you can do in any country. Get some stuff together and try to sell it. Would you expect that this person selling produce in a market in Ecuador has much education? Do you think this? No, probably not. Probably not. Okay, then we go to the top right. Women weaving in the Philippines. Now here these people have a skill. They know they have a skill, they can do something, weaving. But I don't know whether you ever hear about the Philippines. Does anyone have any idea of how well a person would do weaving in the Philippines?
No, I saw only my friend, Mama, them teaching them in my village like this.
Teaching them?
Yes.
And do they do that for a living?
No, not for economic, for the making for using by their house.
And do they sell them?
Some family sell for another market. Not big business and not it can become income for the families, but usually they go to rice and sugar cane like that. This one is the big.
Oh, so it does not bring in income for the family.
Yes.
Okay, well, class, I really don't know about this, but I can say this much. Practically, everybody gets out of the Philippines as fast as they can because the wages there are so low. They're extremely low. And places like, I don't know about Bangkok, but places like Hong Kong and Singapore, every domestic, that means a person who does housekeeping and gets paid for it, I think every domestic is from the Philippines because everybody leaves there to try to make a decent living.
And different in the Thailand, the queen supports the steal everything. When she goes to visit people in the village,
go to the place where they make silk? Yes.
Give the work to them like that.
Yeah, well, Thailand or Bangkok would have a much higher standard of living than the Philippines. Very, very low standard of living. Very hard to make a living there. Now, this banking, I don't know why they put this picture in. There's not much we can tell from this. But this is a bank in the Middle East. And these, of course, are people from their dress we know are Arabs. And what do they deal in? What's their big product in the Middle East? What's the big product in the Middle East that makes these countries rich? Oil. So these guys are probably dealing in a whole big money, right? Big money, oil. Okay. We talked about what is necessary to get a business loan, but please go over to 49. And let's look at question number 4, which is a very interesting question. Carl, would you read that?
Is it possible for people who are in their economy class? If so, how can they do it? Is there more possibility of this in some countries than in others?
Okay, that's a very big question. Now, I want to be sure that everyone's clear about this. Is it possible for people to move up in their economic class? Means, if you are born into a very poor family, what are the possibilities of you moving up?
If successfully, I move from my place to Bangkok for 5 years and money back to them like that.
Okay, now you brought up a very, very important point.
Yeah.
2 things that people usually have to do. 1, relocation, which you did. You relocated from the provinces, went to the cities. People do that all over the world. What's another thing that helps a person rise? Relocation, and what else? That you make sure your children have what? What? Education. Right. Education and relocation can be big factors. Now here's something interesting, class. I Googled, looked up which countries are best, because it says here, if so, how can they do it? Is there more possibility of this in some countries than in others? And the answer is yes. It's much easier in some countries to rise in class than others. So, here is a list according to the ones that are supposed to be, let's say, the easiest. Number 1, Denmark. Number 2, Sweden. Number 3, Finland. Number 4, Netherlands, also known as Holland. Everyone expects US to be number 1.
Yes.
It's not. Then comes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 US. 5. And I understand the US has been going down as far as giving people, it's not that they decide, but where a person has the opportunity to rise economically. Number 6 is Ireland, then the UK, then Austria, then Germany, Belgium, France, Slovenia, and Spain. I stopped there. So I thought that was just rather interesting. Now, we said 2 things, education and relocation. Other things get into it too, but those are 2 important factors, so Nadia, I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, the number 5. Please read that number 5 what? 5.
Brainstorm the problems of very poor people. Then brainstorm possible solutions to these problems. Write your ideas in the chart below.
Okay, we're not going to do that. Now, brainstorm just means we all compare our ideas. That's brainstorm. So, if you have the problem of very poor people, can you think of what some countries have tried to do? Or what you think might be a good idea? We see very poor people in the city. There are very poor people everywhere. What has Thailand tried to do? Anybody know?
Governor give for village per 1 million, now is 2 million baht per village for people who are borrow. They have a good local village.
Oh, a government loan?
Yes, government give per village 2 million baht for people in
ไม่มีเดี๋ยวนี้หมดแล้วไม่มีแล้ว
Okay, so the government,
เมื่อคราวที่แล้ว
ยังอยู่เพราะว่าเขาจะมี it turn when they borrow each year when they pay back they borrow more like
ก็มี
this
เขียนโครงการ
okay, so Nadi is saying the Thai government gives a village money for people to borrow.
yes for poor people in the village still
ทรายเขียนโครงการน่ะไม่ใช่อยู่ดีเขาให้ต้องเขียนโครงการ
If you have the
อาจาร
project,
ย์บอกเลยต้องเขียนโครงการ
Okay, problem.
ไลฟ์แฟนมา
Speak please in English.
All right, tell us.
I don't know about this, but
But I think this is very good
poor
point.
nowadays in Thailand, poor students can borrow some money from the government to support their education.
To go to college.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, government loans for college.
Yes.
Yeah.
but pay back too but some people don't pay back
Everyone always says that. Well, the U.S. started government loans for college around the 1960s, and people were not paying back.
Yeah.
And then the government cracked down, and they go after people. So now, many people come out of college in the U.S. owing the government huge amounts of money, but they pay back because the government has gone after them. There used to be stories about people graduating from college and driving expensive cars and having nice clothes, didn't pay back their money. So they went after those people very much. But Nadi, you're talking about getting loans for a business or something in the village?
yes but people in the village borrow money in a long way exactly the idea government for people no have business for show the bank or like that they give okay then they need to investment on the farm like that
So where did they pay back the money, Dad? Are they paying back the government?
no they have fund in the village per village
Who takes care of the money in the village?
the least village the essential village
The who?
least village and essential village
Oh, the mayor of IC, local government.
yes
Local government. Okay. You know, class, when they started in the 1960s or 70s, they started the war on poverty. And the president of the country at the time, he was sincere. We're going to wipe out poverty in this country. So they began to provide a lot of monies for people who were really desperately in need. So right now we have food stamps. If you have under a certain amount of money, you get food stamps so that you can get food. And then you can get a monthly stipend from the government. Well, they did this for a long time, and then they found out it really wasn't working. Because what happens is, we had families when nobody had ever gone to work. In other words, grandparents, parents, children, all lived on money from the government. So this was not good for people. People were not even learning to work. So I'm only showing there's no easy answer. There's no easy answer. It's very difficult everywhere. So, okay, so we're just going to go on reading. Now we're going to go ahead and look at number 3. Okay, and I'm going to ask you to repeat the words, and let's see which ones we need to know about before we begin the rest of the reading. We're looking on page 49, first nouns. These are words connected with the articles we'll read. Capacity. Character. Collateral. Eradication. Fund. Grants. Literacy. Micro-lending. Poverty. Requirement. Funding. Lift. Plow. Took or take the initiative. Anonymous. Subsidiary. Worthless. Social ills. Peer pressure. All right, I'm going to talk about some of these words. Capacity, what we're going to see is that if a person goes to a bank for a loan and wants to start a business, one thing the bank examines is the person's capacity. But here it means the ability to run the business. That's all. We're not going to stop and go over that. You'll see it when we read about it. But character, one thing I don't like in this article, they say the person, one thing that a bank looks for is that the person has character. Well, there's good character and bad character. Here they tell us that it means honesty. So I think they should have just said that they examine whether the person has good character. In the case of people like us in the cities going to a bank, they will probably look at our credit standing. Have you paid your bills? Okay? In a small community or small village, it's the other people who will probably know, is this person an honest person or not?
Same the qualification?
As a qualification, yeah. Yeah, as a qualification for getting a loan. Yeah. In a big city like Bangkok or in New York, if you go to the bank, they're going to do a credit check on you. Have you paid your bills? Okay. Collateral. That's what we talked about. If you own a house or you own property, that's collateral. Something the bank can get from you if you don't pay your loan. It's much easier to get a loan from the bank if you've got collateral. Okay. Eradication. That just means wipe out. If we want to eradicate poverty, we want to wipe it out. Eradicating anything means wiping it out, getting rid of it.
Eliminate.
Yes, exactly, Bill. Very good. Eliminate. Very good synonym. Fund. A fund is just a body of money. Just a body of money. Grants. Now I'm going to stop and talk about that for just a minute, but there's a difference, the difference between a loan and a grant. You'll often hear a person applying for a grant. There are funds that are set up to give people grants, and you don't pay back a grant. A grant is something that is given to a person, maybe suppose there's a fund for people to study the arts. Suppose somebody's established a fund because we want people to know about Thai art. So then somebody writes a proposal, I'm going to study Thai art and let everybody know about it. So I'm applying for grant. So they give me a grant of 20,000 baht for me to do this, to do something to help Thai art. I don't pay back. Grants are not paid back. That's all I want to say. Okay. Grants not so easy to get. Depends. Literacy. Well, literacy is an important word because a country's progress is often measured by its literacy, and that really just means the ability to read and write. If you look up any country, whether it's Bangladesh, Thailand, USA, or Pakistan, you're going to see literacy rate. Literacy rate. Now, what percentage of the people in that country are literate? And it usually means, so let's suppose, I'm going to guess that the United States might be 85. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, 85.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, pronos. No kidding. Okay, do you know what Bangladesh is?
Less than 60.
Less than 60? Okay, but it means ability to read and write maybe up to the 3rd or 4th grade. Does not mean high school. Just somebody who can read, do basic reading and writing. Not high school, no college. Why everybody looking strange? That's what literacy is. basic reading and writing. Okay? What's wrong, Mom? You think that's low? Yeah, but if you can read and write up until about the 4th grade, you can function in this world. You can function in this world. You know, many newspapers, even American newspapers, are geared to very low level of writing. And if you can read and write up to that grade, you can do arithmetic, you can run a small business. You don't have to have a whole lot more education. Okay, micro-lending. That's what we talked about before, we'll read about. That's where in a community or village, you give people small loans to start a business, and no bank is involved. You pay back within that community. As I said, where I saw it, in the place I was in Africa, the organization that I was with, we just had a few people. You went in, somebody sat at a table, you paid back the money, somebody kept very close records. One thing we're going to see about micro-lending that's interesting, they found out that when they gave those small loans to men, they often did not get the money back. Women, yes, they did. Yes. Women have much better record than men. And so there's one micro-lending place we'll read about. They won't give any loans to men, only to women. Okay. Poverty. Poverty is a condition. If we say that this village has a great deal of poverty, means there are many, many poor people in that village. All right. What's requirement?
What is to be? Requirement is like